HiRevz Media is sponsored by Born to Ride Motorcycle Magazine. Check out borntoride.com.
All right, guys, so all the fuel injection is gone. I actually had a pretty nice guy ended up messaging me about it and ended up selling the whole system to him. Met it with him. That worked out very well. So the water temp sensor is removed, the water's been drained, and the distributor is removed because we went ahead and gave him the distributor because it had the plug for the Terminator and everything. So all that kind of worked out. He has a 383 too, so it's kind of nice. Yeah, all this stuff should just drop right on his car, which is really cool. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna be putting down the intake pretty soon. But this checkerboard background doesn't bother me too bad, but it's more 50s and I'm going more 60s. And now there's literally holes all in it. So it's not nice and clean and perfect. So what we're gonna do is something a little more 60s and put an aluminum panel in here. So we're gonna get this cut out and the whole thing's going blurry. For some reason, we get this thing cut out and then mount it up in the firewall. So may end up polishing it out more than that, may not, but should be good. You'll see the reflection of the stacks in there and everything, so it should look pretty good. So that's the next thing we're gonna try to work on to get that done. Right, guys, the firewall is completely cleaned off. The vinyl is off of there with the checkerboard. So now we're working on the metal. So Daddy's made a really nice pattern. He did one out of paper first, just make everything fit and trim, kind of tape it together. Then transferred that into cardboard. We've kind of worked on the edges and everything fits perfect now. So now we've got this aluminum. This is actually from Home Depot. It's a really thin piece of aluminum. It's 0.02, 20 thousandths. So it's super thin, but it don't have to be, rigid or anything like that. We just want the, just the color of this, the aluminum up there. So got it clamped down now. Gonna get this marked out and then start cutting out our edges. And really, I got this piece actually cheaper because almost every corner was screwed up on it. This one's actually a little bit dented too, but that was one perfect corner. We don't even have to have a corner though. So it is nice to have at least some clean factory edges for that. Everything else is kind of rounded, getting cut off anyways. So that's our next step. All right, guys, so we're working on the metal. We ended up getting it cut out with just some 10 snips here, and then took a little metal block and the rubber hammer and kind of worked on some of the spots that got a little bit dented because the snippers will dent a little bit as they go around. And then we took the sander right on the edge, kind of smoothed up the edge, got some of the little pieces that were kind of hanging there. Those sanded down, worked on the roundness of the corners and stuff. So now we've got to figure out exactly what we want it to look like, whether we want it full polished or sanded or kind of leave it the way it is, but clean it up because it's got fingerprints all over it now. So that's the next step. All right, guys, so this is where we've got it to. And it's actually showing a pretty good bit of reflection now, especially the closer you get to it, you can kind of see some. And we've decided the farther we go with this, the shinier it gets, the harder it's going to be to keep clean and the harder it will be. So these are just little tiny fine scratches from wiping it clean. So this is about right. You're going to be able to see the stacks in there, but it won't be just too shiny. So I think that's going to work.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. All right, guys, we got the panel going on. Went ahead and drilled some little pilot holes in the metal, and now we're attaching them to the car just around. So it's got a pretty neat look though. Metal panel on there, especially with the stack. You can already see the engine kind of reflecting, which is what I wanted. But with the stacks reflecting in it, it's going to be really, really cool looking. So I think that works. And then we're going to clean it up some more. We got fingerprints on it. We're going to clean it up some more, polish it a little bit after it's on there, but finishing out the screws, and then we can start moving on to the next part of actually mounting some stuff. All right, guys, the next step on the firewall is the Mooneyes fuel block we've got here, which looks just like this normally. So it's a normal fuel block, but we put in these fittings here. So 3/8 on the sides, and then these are 5/16 here and here, and then an 1/8 inch plug. So we're using it as a vacuum block. So we're gonna put in 2 spots on our intake to have 5/16 pull off of 7 and 8 at the back. And so that'll have plenty of vacuum to run our brake booster and to run our transmission, since it's a turbo 350. It's got the modulator. So that'll be plenty of vacuums, and we've already made a spot for it on the firewall, and we fit it and all that's good to go. So now we're also working on this really neat coil mount, trying to go old school on everything. So I'm messing with the intakes. Now we're thinking about what we want to do. We'd really like to have it in the end back here, but you're going to run it into the distributor on this side, really close to it anyways. And these are curved. So the flattest spot somewhere in here that we can still get this in and still turn it. Hopefully we don't hit this edge or hit down here anywhere. So we've got to kind of figure out where that's going to go and not hit, because we want to be able to angle this back once we get it in all the way. Worst case scenario, we've got plenty of straight ones that just be sticking out really weird. Try to keep it nice and clean to go back into that vacuum block. But we're pulling off a 7 and 8 at the very back. So that's what we want to do. So we've got an 5/16 drill bit, which is as close as we can find to an R size drill bit. And then we've got an 1/8 inch NPT tap, so to make it fit these. So this is super scary right now, super risky, almost as scary as drilling in those brand new wheels. This is just like that. So about to pop some holes in it, but we got to have some vacuum. We got to be able to make that work. These on the IDFs, technically these are vacuums. You can get tubes for those, but they're really small to be able to pull enough vacuum for a brake booster. It's fine for the transmission. Be fine if you're running, some kind of electronic system on there. You could do that. This is your vacuum advance on that one, which we will hook up to our distributor. So we did go with an HEI small cap distributor that used an outside coil and still has the vacuum. This is just like the one we put on the 55 here. So it's just like that one, except for it's blue and this one's red, and that one obviously fits a small block Ford. Doesn't fits a Chevy. So but anyways, the next step is to try to drill these. Once we get this figured out, we've got the vacuum block figured out. We're gonna get the coil figured out, try to get this stuff mounted in the way, because it'll be in the way if we try to mount them after the fact. So when we get that done, then we can start setting the intake down. All right, guys, so we got a little piece where we're mounting in between here to have something to pull our throttle from, and that's it right there. It's what we made up. It's never gonna break, but it is not pretty. But we got it painted up silver, and it'll pretty much be hidden. So get that dry, get it on there, show you how everything goes together. All right, guys, there it is. There's our little piece we made, and it's not the prettiest thing, but it is welded on all 4 sides in here. Got a little tab down. It's aiming right at that little piece, which is kind of flipped around, but that's where it's gonna have to pull from the bottom down here. So that'll kind of pull back this way. So we'll have our cable kind of comes out and over, and then it'll come in here. So then it'll be able to pull from that way. So this is gonna be crazy strong with all this is steel, and it's all bolted down tight. I mean, I can lift the whole intake by it. It's quite strong, so that should be perfect. And it's just the easiest thing we could come up with to kind of get us where we needed to be. So I think it's going to work. And it's out of the way of the distributor, which takes up a bunch of space right here. Like it takes, I ended up having to trim all this off because it swings right into where the distributor is actually going to be. So the cable will now come around it. So hopefully I didn't block us too much with this, but I think that's going to work.